Hey everyone, welcome to today's webinar. We are super excited to show you the latest and greatest in Cosmos. My name is Anthony Bonaducci, so I'm going to kind of kick things off here, and then I'll take a back seat to my colleague Brian Peterson, who's going to be driving and showing you all the new fun things today. We are at the top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So one thing I wanted to mention, if you've been a customer or a partner for a long time, one reputation we've built up, which we intend to continue doing, is constantly releasing and investing into the product, releasing new features, and really taking into account user and partner feedback to shape the direction of this product. We have this crazy thought process that if we build what people want, they'll be happy and they'll buy the product and they'll use the product. And so that's been a big initiative for us. Now, you may have noticed in the last few months, you probably haven't seen as many features coming out. And the reason for that is we decided to really take a comprehensive pass on Cosmos as a platform as a whole. And as part of that, we've added in over 24 new features, which you're going to hear about in Seed today. But we thought it was best to really take a step back before doing all that and actually look at the technology we're using. And so, honestly, what you're seeing today is like 80% of Cosmos rewritten into new technology, new platforms behind the scenes, which enables us not only to deliver all these amazing things you're going to see, but it's going to allow us to iterate quicker moving forward on additional features and functionality. So one thing on this, we have hundreds of people in here already, so we're obviously not going to be unmuting folks to take questions. But if you do have questions, please type those into the question box that you should be able to access in the top right. We'll try and monitor that, or should have some time at the end, and we'll try to address as many of those as we can. If for some reason we can't get through all the questions, we'll be sure to follow up with you directly via email afterwards. But with that, I think we've kind of covered the housekeeping items. Again, for those of you just joining, welcome. Brian, I'm going to turn things over to you and let you show the latest and greatest here in Cosmos.
Perfect. Thank you, Anthony. Can you hear me loud and clear?
I got you loud and clear.
Perfect. So welcome, everybody. Thanks again for taking the time today. And throughout the course of today's presentation, we're going to go through and talk about our new portal launch. And so this will be a guided tour. I'm not a death by a PowerPoint person, and so I'll show a few slides, talk a little bit about the release plans, and then we will spend the bulk of the time in the new portal and showing off the product and all the features. And so for the agenda for today, I mean, obviously, we're going to go over and talk about all the different features and things like that. I do want to go in and cover the release plan, which I'll talk to shortly. Most of the time is going to be a demonstration. And then, as Anthony mentioned, we will wrap up at the end with some Q&A and next steps. So as far as the release plan is concerned, we're going to be releasing this in two main waves, right? So August 25th, so this coming Monday, wave one is going to be released to specific partners and customers. Those folks have already been notified, so they already know that they're going to be part of that wave one release. If you haven't receive that notification, then you will be in the wave 2 release, which is going to be 2 weeks after that on September 8th. So that's when we're going to migrate over everybody else who has gone through that pre-migration step. Many of you have probably been getting emails about that if you hadn't clicked the button yet, and I'll talk about that more in a minute as well. And so one thing I wanted to mention as well, so after September 8th, when we do that second wave, anybody that hasn't gone through and clicked the button to migrate is going to be moved over to the new platform manually after you complete that step. It's just one button to click. You, at that point, if you haven't clicked it, you'll still be on the what I would call the old portal or the legacy portal. You can still run reports. You can still all of your scheduled reports will still go out, but the Excel add-in will have limited functionality at that point because there are some new things in there that are going to get moved over. And so if you haven't clicked that button yet, or if you're still getting emails about it, be sure to reach out to your partner or be sure to reach out to us, and we can make sure that we get you through that process as quickly as possible. But other than that, for the most part, August 25th, wave 1. September 8th, 2 weeks after that, is going to be wave 2, at which point the majority of everybody will be on the new platform. And so, with that being said, let's talk about all of the features that we have coming out in this release. As Anthony mentioned, we always strive to take into account customer feedback, partner feedback, things that people want to see. We have our ideas portal, which has been active in the Cosmos portal for quite some time, and a huge number of the most requested features in the ideas portal are going to be added into this new release. So I'm going to talk through all of these things briefly. Then we're going to jump in and spend the majority of today's session on more show and tell. And so as far as the product updates are concerned, one thing that people had asked for is more of a home area where they can see some of their most commonly used reports, Power BI dashboards, you know, status of any reports they're currently running. So as we'll see here in a few minutes, you'll have your own home area that shows you the things that are most important to you. Folder management was our most requested feature on the Ideas portal. So we've now added in the ability to create your own folders, nested folders, apply security to folders, really everything that you would want to organize your reports within the portal. We also have added in enhanced version control on reports and data model. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. What this is going to do is this is going to enable you to see all of the various versions of a report, when it was checked in, who it was checked in by, any comments that they'd added for fields they've done or new calculations. And so you'll be able to look at any report going forward and see that version history. In addition, if you make some changes and then the boss comes by and says, oh, hold off on those changes, even though you've already done them, with one click, you can revert back to a previous version of the report without having to check it back out and delete all of your work. So all of that process will be very easy and very streamlined. We've added in favorites, as I mentioned. So for the things you use the most, maybe you have 60 reports that are shared with you, but there's 5 that you use all the time. You can go ahead and favorite those with one click of a button, and those are all going to show up in your home area. So it's easy and fast to get to your most frequently used things. Previously, and currently, I should say, in the Cosmos portal, all of the reports had more of a tile view, those report cards. And we did get a lot of requests from people that were looking for more of a condensed view of all their reports. And so now you'll have the ability to flip back and forth between list views and tile views, as well as we have gone in and restructured the URLs for the Cosmos portal. And so a common request we'd get would be people that well, when I log in, it always takes me to a certain place, but I do all of my work in data modeling. So is there any way where I can just, when I go to log in, always go to data modeling or whatever it may be? Now you'll be able to bookmark in your browser any of the pages that you have in Cosmos. So if there's a certain folder or, you usually go in and just manage users, you can bookmark any of those areas, and then that's where it'll take you immediately. One of the big features of this release is the introduction of what we're referring to as Cosmos environments. And so currently, if you think about it, everybody just has one environment, right? So one place for your data model, one place for all of your reports, and you can control which users can do what. With the new release, we are going to be making it so that you can have multiple environments of Cosmos. A few examples of that would be maybe you want to have a development environment and a production environment. So in the development environment, someone can go in, add some tables and fields to data modeling, build out some reports against those tables and fields, test things out. And then when you're ready, you can actually publish those things and then get them imported into your production environment. So if some customers want more of a proper life cycle for managing some of those things without doing everything in just their quote unquote production environment. Another example, we have some customers that are very large and they have business units in Canada, US, Ireland, Australia, and each one of those business units may be backed by its own BC environment, for example. Now they can actually set up multiple Cosmos environments Each one pulls in from whichever BC data sources they want, and they can say, "Hey, these 14 users only get to go into the Ireland environment, and these 8 users get to go into the Australia environment." So it's a way to kind of separate out environments for larger users. So we built it to be very extensible. There's a lot of different ways you can use it. Those are just two, but I wanted to mention that, and I'll show you some examples of that here in just a few minutes. Improved automation. We've had requests from people about, they want to be able to adjust the time of their ETL runs or an easier way to schedule reports. And so we built in a new automation section that I'll be showing you. So you'll be able to manage those things on your own. You can still control, of course, who has access to that stuff, but it's kind of one central place for all of your scheduling. In addition to that, you have a report queue. Sometimes people will talk to users that might go and kick off 15 or 20 reports at once, and they wanted a better way to see where everything is in the process. And so, as I'll show you, there's a nice, clean way to see everything that's going on. And on more of the administration side, people that are admins for your Cosmos tenant in general, they'll be able to see activity across all of the environments. So they can see all of the pipeline runs, all of the report runs across all the environments in one central place. The improved gallery goes a bit into what I'd mentioned with the development and production idea, where you can, before the gallery was just things that we here at Cosmos would publish, our standard reports, our standard data models, things like that. We've improved this based on customer and partner feedback, so that now that we have environments, you'll be able to publish things internally. So you'll have your own gallery, and that's how other users can get access to reports that maybe you've built in a different environment. And also, and I'll talk more about this in a few minutes, for partners, one really important thing that we've been getting a lot of questions and requests about is partners are now going to have the ability to go in, build out their own IP. For example, maybe they have verticalized solutions for food service, process manufacturing, horticulture, the wine business, things like that. Partners can now go in, leverage Cosmos to build out data models and reports, and then publish those in their own environment. And then we'll be able to work with you to control which customers will have access to that. And so that way, it's going to make it very easy on day one for your customers to spin up Cosmos and immediately get access to a lot of the assets, data models, reports, dashboards, things like that on day one that you've already pre-built. A few other things, and some of these don't apply to everybody, so keep that in mind. We do get a lot of requests for customers that are heavily utilizing SharePoint internally for their various business processes, and they've wanted to be able to go in and run the reports. They wanted to be able to go in, run reports, and have those reports automatically save out to a particular place, maybe an external SharePoint site that for the finance team that doesn't have anything to do with Cosmos. So that's one area that we'll be able to do, and I'll talk to that briefly. If your organization doesn't use SharePoint much, then that's something that you can use if you want, but of course you don't have to. Centralized user and data source management, as I'll show you, there's an entire Cosmos administration area. You can control who can do that. Maybe it's someone in the IT group or some of the business analysts. But this is a place where you can go in and manage all of the users that have access to Cosmos, which environments that they have access to, which data sources get used in which environments, etc. So that's all kind of been moved off into its own separate portal, as I'll show you here in just a moment. I've already talked a bit about the environment publishing and partner IP publishing, and then improved AI. Before we have our AI bot, Captain Cosmos, and that is trained against our knowledge base and makes it very easy to ask questions about Cosmos and quickly get answers in a chat GPT-like experience or a Copilot-like experience. We have taken that from where it was before, which was in the Excel add-in, and moved that so that it is in the all aspects of the product. So you'll see that everywhere in the portal, and it'll make it that much easier to get instant answers to your questions. Lastly, around data management, our engineering team has spent a lot of time re-envisioning data management based on partner and customer feedback we have received. Now, I know not everybody on this call probably has access to data management or things like that, but for those of you that do, we've added in a lot of pipeline metrics. You'll be able to see all of the pipeline runs historically, not just the last one. You'll be able to see how long things are running. There are some little charts and graphs that are built into the product to help you see how that looks over time. As well as the improved gallery that I mentioned. And we've also baked in the enhanced version control, similar concept that I mentioned with reports, but on the data management side. And so for all of the different changes that you and your teammates are making to the data model, you'll now be able to see who checked them in, when they checked them in, any comments that have been added, as well as being able to go and revert back to a previous version of the data model very easily. In addition, some more user-facing things. We have the Table Explorer. This is a way where you can go and look at your data that's in your reporting tables directly from the Cosmos portal itself. That way, if you're building a report and you have a question about some of the data, or if you are doing some data modeling and you add some fields or calculations and you want to make sure that they're doing what you want, you have the ability directly within the Cosmos portal to see those changes made. Improved data modeling processes. This is an understatement. Before, the data management section was in 4 different pages. You kind of had to go here and then go there and then back to here. We've streamlined that into one screen with 2 sections, as I'll show you. And this makes it very easy. And I've noticed huge efficiencies in terms of being able to quickly add, tables and fields from Business Central, and then just look over on the other side of the screen and get all of those added into the data model. So we've streamlined that process a lot. And then lastly, and this is something that came about just recently because we started to get a lot of feedback about it, is row-level security. So previously, what was being controlled from a security perspective in Cosmos was at the report level. So you could build reports and then control who could see those reports. We've now, in the new portal, added a section that I'll show you for row-level security. And what this is going to do, this is going to enable you to go in and control at the security layer, or sorry, at the data layer, who has access to what. So maybe I have a bunch of sales reports, but for Anthony, I only want Anthony, whenever he runs a sales report, to be able to see things where on the sales transactions, the salesperson code is AB, for example. And even if he tries to run it for someone else and look at someone else's sales, then Anthony won't be able to do that. So that's a really, like I mentioned, kind of a somewhat of a last minute addition, but we were getting a lot of questions and feedback about that. So our engineering team found a way to get that into this release, which we were really excited about. So, but like I said, I didn't want to spend the whole time talking about PowerPoints, and so I want to jump right into the exciting stuff here. And so I'm going to come over here. I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And so based on the release plans that I mentioned with the Wave 1, Wave 2, when you come in and to log into to Cosmos, your Cosmos portal on that day, what you're going to see is going to look something like this. And so you see here that I have a tenant administration area. I'm going to go and talk about that towards the end of the presentation because that's not going to be relevant for everybody. And I also see that I have a few environments down here. Now, in this case, I have access to 3 environments. On day 1, as soon as you're moved over to the new platform, there will just be one environment for you, production, and then you can go in and add in new ones as you see fit. But I'm going to go ahead and log into this Brian production one right here. And what you'll see is this takes me into the new portal. And I want to walk you through this process. So you see here, it took me directly to my home page. Here I have some favorites already selected. I have any reports I'm currently running that are going to show up right down here. And then I have navigation on the left-hand side to see all other aspects of the portal. Now, before I go on, I do want to mention one thing, because you might look over here and say, well, geez, there's a lot of buttons here all of a sudden. I have every feature enabled. I have every role turned on for me. And this is something that is contextual to the user. So for example, if your organization isn't using Power BI, you're not going to see the Power BI section. If you don't have any SharePoint sites set up that you have access to, you're not going to see this section. If you don't have data modeling, you won't see any of this. And so a lot of users are just going to have, reports, and they're going to have a pretty streamlined approach. This is what it would look like as far as if you had everything turned on for you. So just wanted to mention that so it doesn't come across as overwhelming. But if I wanted to come in, you see here in my favorites, maybe these are some of the reports I run most frequently, and then I can come in here and I see that I have a Power BI report. I can go ahead and click on that, for example, and it's going to go and it's going to load up. Oh, I haven't signed into Power BI here in a little bit, and so that's just going to authenticate against my Power BI account. And then you'll see here that in just a moment, Power BI is going to load up this dashboard, and everything is right here in the Cosmos port, right? So I can see everything here. It's then easy for me to go off, run other reports, look at whatever I want. Of course, with the typical Power BI experience, everything is interactive and live. So I can come in here, and as I click on different buttons, you see that the context of the dashboard itself comes in and changes. So I can see everything that I want here, add filters, whatever it may be. And so I can get access to my Power BI dashboards directly from here. In addition, I have some reports, and maybe I want to come in and run this report that I run all the time to analyze. I can come over to the right. I can just click the run button. And one of the things I'll want to point out is here you can now control where this is going to go. Every user is going to have a little My Files section. I've added in some folders, so maybe I want this to go into my sales section, for example. And I also have these external SharePoint sites set up. So if I want this report, when I run it, to go save off into a particular folder in some finance SharePoint site that's completely outside of Cosmos, I have the ability to do that. You can also do that with scheduled reports as well. So maybe I want to have this report go out to my sales. If I want to run it for a certain country code, I can. Maybe I just want to run it for all my country codes, and I'm going to go ahead and run that report. And so one of the things you'll notice is down here at the bottom, I have the status of this. Now the report's running. And as soon as this report is done, it's going to open the report up immediately in a new browser tab. We got a lot of feedback from users that, it was extra clicks. They had to run the report, and then once it was done, they'd come back and check on it, and then they'd click the open button, and it would open up for them. Now the report itself is just going to open up in the browser tab immediately. They can do whatever they want. They can save it, they can download it, open it in Excel desktop. They can use all of the sharing capabilities over that are built into Microsoft Office to share it out with other users if they want, add in any comments and things like that. And so I wanted to put that out. That is one change based on user feedback as far as that's concerned. And also, I want to show you more of the reporting section as a whole. So if I come right over here to reports, this is the equivalent of the report section you have right now. And one thing that you see here is I also have folders. You'll be able to add in all the folders you want, as many folders nested as you want. And you can also control both the security and the naming of things like that of the folders that are in here. In addition to this list view, we also have the ability to go and see a grid view. So based on your personal preference, you can go in and look at things however you want. I can click on sales. Now I'm going to see all of my sales reports. Maybe I don't like that view, so I'll go back to the list view. And here you can see all the reports that have been shared with you. One thing that we've done is we still have the ability to come in here, obviously run your reports from here. This is where you would add something as favorites. Maybe I want to add this one as a favorite, and now when I go back to my home page, it's going to show up in my favorites list. And some of the common things like copying reports, moving, renaming, deleting are all done over here. But before, we were getting feedback that there were a lot of buttons for security and for scheduling and for checking things out. We've moved all of that into a single view. So you can see here that within this report, and we also have breadcrumbs, so I can come in, I have my templates, I have my sales folder, so it's easy to navigate. I can go into sales, I can click on a report, and I can come in here and set security. So here I can say, well, this user has the ability to, run the report and edit the report or make changes to it. Evan only has the ability to run reports. And I can see down below my version history. So this is when I first built the report out on 8.3. I added a country code. I came in later and added a country name. I can restore previous versions if I want by clicking the button. And then I can see what all of the latest ones are. Now, these ones have all been, checked in and completed. As I've mentioned, I have all the permissions. If this is something where I was in my development environment and I wanted to make it available in production, I can add it to my internal gallery. Or if I want to open it to make some changes, I can go ahead and click the button right there as well. Now, scrolling down a little bit further, people really want to see their run history. So what we know when it was ran, things like that. And so they want to see their run history. And we've also added in this concept down here of this job explorer. And so if I click on this, it'll actually take me directly to that page. It's going to filter everything based on the context of that particular report. And then as you see here, I can add filters for maybe I don't want to see everything for all time. I just want to see the last week or something. And I can see all the times that this report's been run. Did I manually run it? Was this a scheduled report run? Was it completed? Did it fail? Things like that. So you can see all of that, and you can also see the history graphically of how long the report runs were taking. If I want to just get right back to that report where I was, I can just click on that and it's going to take me right back to that page. So we spent a lot of time thinking through the navigation. What are the easiest steps for people to be able to come in here and really do the things that they want in the reporting section? And like I mentioned, of course, you'll be able to set security on individual reports like I showed you and on folders as a whole. Now, where that comes in is maybe you have 30 reports that your finance team uses, but you don't want to go through each of those 30 reports and manually add security to all the users. You could put all of those in a finance folder, assign the security to that folder for those users, and then they would get access to all of the reports that you had placed in that folder. All of your finished reports are going to be longer lived now. We would have feedback from people of, well, hey, I ran a report a couple days ago. How do I get back to that? And if they hadn't archived the report in the current portal that you use today, then at the end of every day, we would go and just purge those so they were no longer sticking around. We got a lot of feedback from people that they wanted those reports to live around a little longer. So you'll be able to come in and see all of the reports that you've run historically and manage those as you see fit. And lastly, if you do have external SharePoint sites that you're using, we wanted to make it easy to get to those from Cosmos. So if they've been added into Cosmos, I'll show you that at the end when we talk about the administration stuff, then you'll have easy access to come in here and see all of those SharePoint libraries or SharePoint sites right up here. And then any reports that you've saved out there or any other files that you've saved out there, you'll be able to go in and have access to. On the Power BI side, we got feedback from people that some people have something like 15 or 20 different Power BI workspaces shared with them in Power BI. And before, just seeing a huge list of all of the workspaces and all of the reports was a lot for them to sift through. And so we've streamlined that navigation. So in this case, I have 2 Power BI workspaces shared with me. I can easily come up here, flip back and forth between those 2, open up any of the Power BI reports that are shared with me that are in those. And so we've just worked to streamline the navigation as well based on user feedback. And again, list view, grid view, however you want to see that, you can right in here. And this will be remembered in your browser settings. So I'm skipping down a little bit to the automation side since we're still kind of talking about reports. So I can come down here into automation, and 2 things I want to point out. This is where I'm going to have all of my scheduled jobs. So this is going to be all of my scheduled reports. And also you see that you have the ability to set up your ETL runs in here as well. That was a piece of feedback that we got from a lot of folks, is they wanted control over the timing of when those things would run. And so if I want to look at that one, for example, I can come in. I can see that currently it's going to run at 3 o'clock in the morning. Maybe I have some data that comes into BC a little later than that. So I actually want to have that run at 4 o'clock in the morning as well on every day of the week. I can go ahead and set that up. And another piece of feedback that we got from our user base was that if for some reason their pipeline failed, they wanted to proactively get notifications. So you can now come in here and have failure notifications be sent out to people within your organization if the pipeline fails. That way you're aware that it's failed and someone can go in and rerun it or take a look at what might be going on. So you can easily adjust all of that now on your own here in the Cosmos portal. And one thing that I want to mention, some of you have a lot of scheduled reports that go out as part of this migration. And that's one of the reasons it's really important to click that migrate button if you haven't already, sooner rather than later. All of your reports, of course, your data model, all of your security, and all of your scheduled report runs are going to get migrated over as well. Is part of those wave 1 and wave 2 releases. And so you don't have to worry about coming back in here and resetting up all of your scheduled reports. Everything's just going to come over for you automatically. The job queue here, this is a way to see all of your report and ETL activity that you're taking part in. So I can come in here, for example, and maybe I also want to see anything that's completed or anything that's failed for all of my report runs. So you have the ability to come in, look at all of these. Was it scheduled? Was it completed? What does everything look like? Both on the report run side, and I can come over on the ETL run side as well and check out all of my recent pipeline runs. So people have asked for a lot more in terms of like logging and telemetry metrics to know what's going on within their Cosmos environment. And so this is something we wanted to add in to be able to quickly look at all of that. And of course, we also have what we call the Job Explorer. So this is where you can come in, pick a particular report, and then see everything charted, graphed, what are all the different reports, what was the status of it, this one failed, so I need to go in and take a look at that, things like that. And so just a few different ways to look at all of the activity within your portal. Getting into administration, not going to talk too much about this one. Here I have 2 users in this environment. I'm an environment admin, which means I can manage other users within this environment. That's a role that you can control. But let's say that I realize that I need to give Evan report editor. I can go ahead and do this right here. There is another place, right? We have more of an overall management environment, which I'll show you in a few minutes. And with that, we have the ability to also control all of this as well. So maybe there's people that are just admins and your tenants, and they don't even have the ability to get into environments. These users can be managed in either place. And then for gallery content for partners, this is where I can see any gallery content that I've published internally. I'll show you an example of that in just a minute when I show you how to get into a different environment and what that might look like. Now, last but not least, I do want to spend a little time and talk about the data model here. And so as you see, I have the ability to come in. I can see all of the history in here of all of the different check-ins. So I can see I added some salesperson updates. I updated the date table. I've changed some relationships. So I can see who came in here, made all of these data model updates. I can see when they came in here and made these data model updates. And we've added some contextual icons as well, as far as these are concerned. So you see that this one's published, right? Some of these are published, some of these aren't. And so that way you have an idea of what happened for each one. And if I click on any of these, I can see that it was checked in, it was added to a gallery. This one was, checked in and also published. So then you have all of the messaging around what these look like. And so I did come in here and check this out just a moment ago. So I can also come in and click the edit button. And this is going to show you the new data modeling editing, the data model editing experience. So you see, we basically have 2 panes now. We have one where we've consolidated a lot of the staging information. We have another one where we have all of our reporting tables over on the side. And so we've made it very easy to come in here, go to the customer table. Maybe I want to add some new field called, address or something like that. I can just make one click. I can then come over here wherever I want. I can open up my customer table here. Now, if I want to get that address field added, all that I need to do is just come in here. I can add a new field. If the field names are the same, when I click save, you'll see here that it automatically maps everything in. And That's all I need to do. I came in and just added a field from Business Central, got it mapped into my customer table. Everything auto saves up the top, so there isn't anything else that we need to do. And of course, you can drag these around or collapse them to work and build things out the way that you want. So again, there's a lot that we can do here as far as everything is concerned. And if I want to go ahead and check that in, I can just say added address to customer table or whatever I need to do, and I can go ahead and check that in. So now I have a log of that. Maybe I made a bunch of changes and I want to go ahead and go in and, whatever those changes are, I want those to be, I want those to be saved and updated with the comments and everything there. And so I mentioned that because with the data model, there's a lot that we did with the data model in terms of new functionality, streamlined approach. We really wanted to focus on making it very easy for users to quickly add tables and fields from Business Central into the data model without having to flip back and forth between a bunch of screens. So I have it checked out, or I have it checked in. I can publish it, add it to the gallery, and do whatever we want. The Data Surfer, which we'll be renaming to the Data Explorer, this is where I can actually come in and look at my data in Cosmos. So I can pick a table I want to look at. Maybe I want to look at some of these fields. I care about this, this, this. You can come in here and select everything, or just look at the ones that you want. And maybe I want to filter on a certain look at a certain salesperson code as well. But I can pick the fields that I care about, and then I can go ahead and click the Load Data button. And what this is going to do, this is going to go out right behind the scenes using our APIs. It's going to go find all the records that match everything. So you see here, it just loaded in loads and loads and loads and loads of customers. And I can see by going across that I have access to all of the different fields that I saw here. So maybe there's only one specific salesperson code I want to look at. I want to look at LH. For Laura, I can go and just click, add a filter. I can click the Load Data button, and that's going to go out and just refilter the data. And then when everything loads, now you see that the data is just going to be for LH. And so this way, we want to make it very easy to, in addition to just being able to create reports off the data, but to look at the data to make sure if you're adding calculations or adding new fields, you can then come right back in here once your pipeline is done running and get a feel for all of the different data and making sure that that things look good there. So that's the Data Explorer. That'll be rolling out in the new release as well. We're really excited about that. We've received a lot of requests from our customers and partners to add something like this into the product. Next, I want to talk a little bit about row-level security. So as I'd mentioned before, we currently have the ability to secure things at the report level, but we had a lot of customers that were more sensitive about their data, and they wanted to make sure that certain users could only run reports against certain companies, or a salesperson could only see their sales, or a certain department head can only see, income statement for their department, or whatever it may be. And so our engineering team built in a very streamlined way for me to do this. I can see that I have 2 users in my environment right now. I can see that I've added some security for 3 different tables for Evan. Maybe I want to add one for Brian as well. I can go in. I can easily pick the table, right? Going back to the example I mentioned, maybe I want to add something to sales transactions where I want to filter on like my salesperson code, and Brian should only be able to see things for the salesperson code BP. I can add that in. Maybe there's someone that works under Brian and that you want to add more. We made it very easy to come in and just add multiple values. So now whenever Brian runs a sales report, the only thing that's going to get returned, regardless of how the report is built, are going to be things where the salesperson code is either AB or BP. So if I can't go and try to take a peek, sneak a peek at what someone else may be selling if I shouldn't be looking at their sales. If you want to add security for multiple tables as well, maybe I want to come in here and also only be able to add or look at like GL reports or financial statements where the global dimension 1 code, which is my department, is sales or something like that. So I can do that, and I can go ahead and click Add Filter. And so now when I'm running any of these reports, this security is going to be respected, and I'm only going to be able to see things that I should be able to see. I did want to mention as well that this will flow all the way through. So it's going to flow through to your Cosmos reports. It's going to flow through to any people that are connecting to Excel directly through our APIs. Same thing with Power BI. It's going to flow through to the Data Explorer that I showed you here a minute ago as well. And so it will lock the data down to that user across the entire platform. So, so I hope that you like that. That's something that we, again, like I mentioned, we've had a lot of people request, and we were really excited to be able to get that added into the portal. Now, a few more things that I want to show you. So first off, Captain Cosmos, our chatbot, is available everywhere up here at the top. So you'll be able to access, get immediate access by just asking questions of, it's trained against our knowledge base, so being able to do that. And when I click on my user profile, you'll see that this looks a bit different now. You still have immediate access to all of the resources like you did before. However, you also have environments. And so, like I said originally, I have access to everything. So I have access to the administration section. I have access to these other two environments. And if I want to go into my dev environment, for example, I can do that. I can build reports, build a data model. I can publish all of this gallery content. You see that I've already published this data model and this my first report right over here. And so those can now be imported into other environments, like we saw before. And so this way, it's very easy to come in here, get access to your different environments. And our engineering team spent a lot of time to make sure that everything was very fast and very responsive as you're flipping back and forth between those environments. One last thing that I want to talk about, and this is more for the admins or the administrators that are on the call, is where all of this gets managed is going to be behind the scenes in its own easy to access portal now. So I can click on administration, different color scheme at the top so it's clear where we are. But you can see here under environments, these are all the environments that I have created and set up within my Cosmos tenant. Now, if you remember from before, I only saw 3 of those. And the reason for that is because this environment doesn't have any users associated with it yet. So I can't get to that environment yet since I don't have access to it. So we have the ability to come in here, see all of our environments. I can create new environments. And if I wanted to manage a particular environment, this is where I would come in to do so. So I could come in, maybe there are more users that I want to add to a particular environment. It's very easy for me to add that. Same thing with data sources. I can create all of my data sources and users right in here at a high level, right? For your Cosmos tenant as a whole, I can say that these are all of my users, and then I can control which users have access to which environments. And you see that I'm using 6 of my 10 full and none of my 10 light. So you still have all of your user counts right there. Same thing on data sources. How many data sources are you licensed for versus how many are you using? And then all the configuration for these is going to be set up right over here. So you can control, the environment. You can see all the companies that particular data source has in it, and then go from there. For those of you that do leverage SharePoint heavily, this is where you would come in and create your external SharePoint sites. Each Cosmos environment has its own one that gets created automatically. But if you do have an extra one, like a finance site or a sales site, and you want Cosmos to be able to run reports and save them out to those, what we call external sites, since they're not technically Cosmos sites, they're just things that you already have out there that you're using in your current processes, you can add those here. And then any users that have access to those sites in SharePoint are going to be able to go in and have reports save out there wherever you would like. And so that's where that piece gets managed. This is the global job queue. And what I mean by this is that, as I've mentioned, you may have someone who's, an administrator of all things Cosmos, and they want to be able to come in here and check out across all of your environments. You see over here, I can see which environments we have, where all of my reports are running, who's running them, what are the statuses, things like that. Were they scheduled? Same thing on the ETL run side. You can look at all of this information across all of your environments in one place. So again, logging and telemetry and more insight into what's happening was something something that we get a lot of requests for. Maybe someone urgently needs a report, and so someone goes and builds the report for them, and then they want to check and see if that person's even using the report over the past few months. That's something that you'd easily be able to come in and see from directly within here. So and then last but not least, over here on the license info side, this is something where people are, frequently reach out because they want to know how many users or data sources, do they have Power BI or not. And so anybody that has access here will be able to easily come in and see what all you're licensed for from a Cosmos perspective. And lastly, on the environments, this is where you can set everything up, manage users for each of those individual environments as well. We did add in some nice workflows. So if I come in and add a new user, for example, we can automatically associate them with certain environments just to streamline that process. So again, like I mentioned, we did put a lot of thought into how do we add this much functionality, and how do we make the user experience as optimal as possible for all of our users. And so and at that point, I mean, I think I've gone through and talked about a lot of the things that we were planning on going through today. Anthony, is there anything else that you can think of that I might have missed?
No, I don't think so, Brian. I think that was, fairly comprehensive, trying to show over 2 dozen things in a very short amount of time. But obviously, just, maybe Brian, you can speak to the knowledge base site and some of the things coming out there just to make sure there's documentation around all this stuff for folks.
Yes, of course. Yep. Nope. That's a great question. And so, as far as the knowledge base site is concerned, I know a lot of you probably go out there on a regular basis. Out on our support and training site, we've been diligently working through the hundreds of articles that are out there. As you can imagine, with a release this big, where the portal is changing, data modeling is changing, how users get added is changing, we feel that it's all still intuitive, but we obviously want to have the most up-to-date documentation. And as Wave 1 and Wave 2 are released, those articles are already updated and scheduled to be published automatically here in the near future. So with the bulk of customers going out with Wave 2, all of those articles will be published automatically the day before that release is out. So the knowledge base should be up to date. Fresh videos, fresh screenshots, fresh steps for everything, new knowledge base articles on all of the new functionality, and all of that's going to be available out there as well. And one comment I wanted to make as well, based on something Anthony mentioned with the, you know, the 24 new features or so that we just went through, is that the important thing to keep in mind is, like, well, some customers might not use all of those features, but so if you don't use SharePoint sites currently, or some customers, probably I've talked to some that don't even really see the need for them to have multiple environments, so they might not use any of that. But it is there, and as I mentioned earlier, like, we're committed to building an extensible platform that can work with a wide variety of customers and organizations and partners. And so we feel that this big release really helps to set the foundation for a lot of really cool things that we have planned over the next 18 months as well. And we'll be sharing that out in the near future as the plans around that all start to solidify.
Perfect, Brian. Well, we did have a few questions, and I guess we have a few minutes. So, folks, if you want to hang on for those, feel free. Otherwise, if you're got to get to your next call, we understand. But I'm going to buzz through these real quick. So, Brian, we had a question. Does the run history show the report options for each run?
So if I come in here to the run history, it doesn't currently show the report options. If I go in and take a look at a report, it'll show the report. It'll show the report. It'll show when it ran, things like that. You'll be able to open it up. It doesn't currently show the report options, but that is something that we've heard some feedback from some folks that have used the new portal early on. And so we'll be working with the engineering team to talk through what that might look like.
Okay, and you can obviously reference the filters in the report, correct, Brian? That way you could open it and just see them at the top, for example.
Oh, of course, yes, yeah. Any filters that you can definitely reference in the report itself. Yep.
Okay. And then someone says, is it just your run, or can you see when others have ran reports?
Yes. So you can come in here, and when you're in the portal right here, you can see any of the reports that you have ran. So that's where you would be in the main portal. If you wanted to see reports that other people have ran, that would be something where you would need to be an administrator to see that, because that could be private or privileged. You might not want everybody seeing who's running which reports, but that's exactly where this job queue would come in over here. Because this way you'll be able to see all of the reports run by all the different users in all of the different environments. So this would be the place for that.
Yep. There was a question, is there a sort button on the data surfer slash data explorer? Can you sort by certain columns or things like that?
If I come in here and go to the Data Explorer, I don't believe that we have added in the sorting to that yet, but that's something that we have discussed internally. And as we continue to get user feedback and people want to see things, people want to see additional features and functionality, then that's all stuff that we can add in. So that should be relatively straightforward for us to get added in at some point. Being able to sort things, enhanced filtering, all of that fun stuff. Yep.
Yep. And then will the row level security work on dimensions? The person said, I believe you already answered that, but just for the rest of the audience.
Yes. Yep. The row level security will work on any of the tables and fields where you have security, where you have set security up. So it'll be at the table level, but you can have, for example, you can have all of your different, dimensions for department and region and salesperson, or however your dimensions are set up. You'll have those in your transaction tables, and then you can set the security up however you want there. Yep.
Let's see. That one was answered. There's quite a few here. Let me see. Let me see. Can we provide a copy of the video? Yes, this video is going to be sent out. My apologies. I should have mentioned that at the start, but we'll make sure that
Oh
you'll
yeah.
get
Yep.
a follow-up with that. So we'll send that. Do the report filters now support relative dates?
So that's something where that's currently supported in the product, and you can email our support team if you have questions about that. We leverage Excel for that. So we have the ability in a report, for example, to say, oh, well, there's a report option for date range, and if someone plugs in a date range, then use whatever they plugged in. Otherwise, for things like scheduled reports, maybe you want that to be dynamic. So we can, in Excel, we can say drop in today and then do some math to figure out this needs to be for the last week or the last day or the last month or year to date, and we can build all of that in currently and have the reports automatically leverage that. So yeah, if you have any questions on that, feel free to reach out to our support team, and we have some knowledge base articles that we can share out.
Okay, perfect. Can data models or reports be pulled into Fabric?
Currently, the the data models and currently the data model wouldn't be able to be pulled into Fabric. That's something that we'll look at down the road. With reports, if you had a report that was set to generate something, there are ways that you could do that by having the report emailed to a SharePoint site and then having Fabric ingest that file from the SharePoint site or something like that. So we would rely more on the capabilities of Fabric for that. But with our distribution mechanisms, now that we can save things off to SharePoint, you should be able to set that up based on however Fabric would allow you to.
Yep. And then there was just a broad question, will there be any extra training or walkthroughs given if needed on this? So I did want to reiterate the recording is going to be sent out, number one. Number two, yes, we intend to have some more frequent kind of webinars and presentations around new features. Obviously, if you see new stuff and you have questions, that's why we have a support team that just won an award for best support team in our space. So feel free to reach out anytime you need help, and we'd be happy to do that. And then the other thing I just want to reiterate is Brian mentioned at the start, like keep in mind in his view here, every single view, permission, page, screen is enabled right now. Most of your users are not going to see even half of those things on the left side of the screen. So, when you add features and functionality, naturally there's going to be more things you can click on. But again, it's still going to be provisioned out. If you don't have Power BI, you're not going to see that. If you don't have SharePoint site set up, you're not going to see that. If you don't have data modeling, you're not going to see that entire section. If you're not an admin, you're not going to see that entire section. So it's not going to be as bloated, if you will, as Brian's view here, because this is like literally every single thing you could turn on.
Exactly. Yep. And one thing I want to mention on that too, Anthony, for most people out there that are just report viewers, they're basically just going to see these two. You'll see their reports, they'll see their finished reports. If they don't have SharePoint set up, they won't see that, and so they'll have a very streamlined interface to get to the reports that they have access to, run them, and then see everything in the My Finished reports.
Yep. And then someone said, can you share the support email? So I put that in the chat. If anyone has any questions, it's just support@cosmosdatatech.com. And that is in the chat as well. Looks like our last one, Brian. When you run a report and there is an error with the report, are there better or clear instructions on how to resolve the error? So like error handling.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. And so as far as that's concerned, you'll be able to see that when you preview the report like you currently have in the new Excel add-in. We have changed the diagnostic section where you would previously see some of those things. So it's broken down a bit more into the steps that the report's taking and then the errors. And I've spoken with our engineering team, and we do have an initiative here in the near future to do a whole pass on error logging and error improvements and something like that. So that's something that you can definitely expect to see here in the near future once we get this big release out the door. So that is top of mind for us.
All right. There were a couple others, but they're pretty one-off, so I'll just respond to those folks individually. But really appreciate everyone's time today. Hopefully you liked what you saw. The other thing I want to reiterate is this release, with all the stuff we did behind the scenes with the platform, is going to enable us to develop much faster. So we have some pretty aggressive plans laid out, in the near future and moving forward. So expect to get, kind of see our normal cadence of features coming out every month, as well as major stuff moving forward. But that's kind of, I think, all we had today. So again, there were a couple one-off questions. We'll make sure we respond to all those. But if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out, email Brian, myself, or support, and we'll make sure we get back to you. But appreciate everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll get the recording sent out, later today or tomorrow. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.